Welcome back, everyone, to our third part of our Metal Gear Solid video game book club. As always, I'm not going to speak too much here because this isn't my pick. This is Christian's pick. I was really, really excited about it.
So you weren't
A little bit. No, I'm just kidding. I'm still enjoying it. So, Christian, let's take it away. Let's dive into it. Let's talk about part 3, which is pretty much middle of this game.
Yes, yeah. It's some big meat and potatoes in this little playthrough. So like I said, because last week there was little discrepancies on where we stopped. So I'll be picking up right from the first floor of second floor, the laboratory of the new building. So this is the missile launcher room. So this is, as soon as we get in, we notice that the entire floor, as you walk forward, is filled with all the floors are electrified, and then it's filled with noxious gas that drains your oxygen if you stay in there too long. And your only way to do it, if you call Campbell and everybody, is to hit it with what is called the Nikita launcher, which is a remote controlled sort of rocket launcher that you can control the rocket and then fly it through this area to then hit the breaker in the back of the room that stops the floors from being electrified so that you can walk through.
Can I ask you a random question about this?
Sure.
So, when you use this weapon, it throws you into first-person mode, right? Pretty easy to. No, it doesn't.
No,
only certain weapons. Yeah.
It says on the description you have to press Y to do it, but yeah.
Let me ask: do you guys ever use first-person mode? I find using first-person to shoot and do other stuff really difficult.
I've never used it to shoot. I use it to see things at a distance because obviously it's top down. So if I want to be like, hey, what's back there? I'll use first person to see that. But that's the only thing. Because a lot of times, I'll be going up a staircase, which, by the way, we're skipping the first floor of that nuclear building because we stopped after Vulcan Raven last time.
Sorry. Yes.
So you got that one area. I'm going to get to the second floor with the elevators. Took me a couple tries to figure out that some of those grates on the ground make your feet stomping super duper loud for everyone to hear.
Yeah.
Which was fun.
They do.
But luckily, I really didn't have to need them all too much, so I just went on the left side and went up. But yeah, for example, I was going up that staircase on the left side, and you got one guy up top who kind of walks around a little bit, and you got one person that sometimes comes near you on the bottom. I can just stay in the middle of that staircase and just pick my battles, essentially, to find out when I want to go. But for that mini map only shows you so much. I can't tell you how many times I wanted to fucking expand that mini map. I just really want to press a button to see the full map.
I never thought to use first person for that, which is really stupid of me. But
yeah, use first person to kind of see when he's going to come up. Like, okay, he's coming. I can get rid of my first person and just kind of wait for him to come down.
Yeah.
To get past there. But yeah, that's the only time I really use first person outside of a certain weapon that we use later on in the game.
I tried to use it on this Nikita a couple times. I don't know. I don't know if either first person or third person is better. It all kind of sucks.
First person's way better.
Do you? Okay.
Because it puts the camera right on the front of the rocket, so then you just get to control where it's going.
I did not know that was an option. I would have sure fucking liked that option.
So just so we're clear, just like as soon as you press the thing, not
Christian,
only if you call Natasha about it.
I do. Every time I go into something new that I'm curious about, I call up every one of these motherfuckers on my speed dial. And I did not. Maybe I missed it. Maybe I wasn't listening. You can take your, one or two, option A, option B, but all I knew is that you got to guide your rocket, and that if it doesn't move, it's going to go fast.
Okay, well, you tell me to keep saying it, but both of you always yell about something that you didn't know about, and then it's right there. I did the thing that
you're telling me what to do. I just didn't get it.
Okay, well, I'm sorry that you missed it, but yes, I am going to bring it up so that for the other people listening know that when you do call Natasha, she tells you that if you press Y or triangle, it fucking puts the first person view and lets you do it. And I don't know for sure, I'd have to go back and look, but I think it also says it on the description of the rocket launcher when you are scrolling through it.
I'm not playing a Souls game. I'm not reading item descriptions.
Okay, well, hey, it's whatever. Either way, yes, it does let you do that. You can control it two ways. It is either top down and you're controlling the rocket like that, and then you're following it through, or it lets you go into first person camera mode, and then the camera's right on the front of the rocket, and it's like flying a plane in cockpit mode, like Alex did through all of Ace Combat. Like, it's just you're right on the front of it and going through.
It's like a racing view.
Made an interesting point there too. So in this scene, as you're controlling the rocket through the hallways, if you are going in a straight line, it speeds up for no reason. Kojima
Yeah.
think that was necessary, other than
I-
just making shit harder just because?
Because you have to hold down a button, and if you and you can't, they don't want to expect you to press another button to go faster, right? So the only option for them was to, if you're not holding a direction, it will go fast in that direction. So if you're like me, I'm just sitting there going wiggle, 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 wiggle until I know I got
Same.
straight away, and then I go straight.
Yeah.
Same.
Yes, that is how you get it to slow down. So you can change the direction of it. It doesn't become a problem in first person mode because you're usually wiggling it anyway to try to like line up where you want to go.
Sure.
So it never really comes up like unless you want it to go fast forward, then
Take your
you
word
just
for
let it go. But yeah, so you break the breaker on the back of the wall. That knocks out the floor from being electrified. So then you run forward and you are now against the time limit for your oxygen. You can run through here. There's a couple extras that you can get in here. So I know both of you guys are looking at a guide occasionally or not. So it depends on whether or not you've been seeing it. You can get a gas mask in this room. That makes it so that your oxygen drains a lot less slowly. And then the other thing that you can get in here, I believe, is just some extras like ammo, rations, different things like that. But the gas mask is the big one for this room.
I've been backtracking and exploring every area since part 1. We talked about that. I've gotten everything. I
Okay.
have 2 boxes. I have the gas mask and the knife. Like I've gotten everything.
Yeah. So after this room, and when we get to the end, we get to towards the end of it, and it's sort of like this sort of decompression chamber. You get through that, and what we hear is it sounds like a lot of people getting their asses kicked on the other side of the room. You walk in, and this is what I like to call in this game the Resident Evil hallway. So as soon as we walk into this hallway, there is dead bodies everywhere, bullet holes and big chunks of wall missing everywhere. And it tries to do it honestly does feel like, because I don't know, Alex, I don't think you've ever played them, but I think Preston has before, but it does look like a shot out of the old PS1 Resident Evil games. That's
sure, yeah.
how
The
it totally looks.
yeah, everything.
Yeah. But as you go through, you get towards the end, and there is a poor, unfortunate soldier who's being held in the middle of the air, and he is begging for his life before he gets slashed through a door. And the door mechanism breaks, which is great because we, at this point, I think only have a level 2 card, and this door is a level 4. And so that's the only reason we're able to get through it is because something slashes through the door completely and throws old boy right through it and then walks through. So we get in there. And this is where we are introduced to an intro scene between 2 characters. One is Gray Fox, who is going to be the boss of this section, and 2 is Hal Emmerich, who is the engineer that we were looking for.
Is he a
And our intro
insert for Kojima?
I don't think so.
He's got the glasses. He always talks about animes and movies and stuff.
He does. I don't
figured
think
it's
that's. I don't think that he's a self-insert for Kojima. At least I hope not, because I find Hal to be completely obnoxious and ridiculous. But and he is written that way. He's not. It's not like he's supposed to be likable.
Yeah.
But I have no idea. I do know, as a fun fact before I will start, this office that we were in is the old Koji Pro offices. So when this game was this is a recreation of the old Koji Pro offices, which is cool. But so our introduction to these 2 characters as Gray Fox is asking Hal to tell him where his friend is at that he's looking for. Hal just pees himself. Just straight up, just pees himself on the floor everywhere. And as soon as that happens, we walk up, and Hal is like, "Oh God, what now? Like, I don't even know what's about to happen to me." And Gray Fox realizes, boom, there's Snake. That's who I've been looking for. And he lets us know. We ask who he is. He does not answer. And he tells us that he is neither friend nor foe, but he is back from the dead, and he wants to have a battle to the death with Snake to fulfill him. Now, for all of us on the call and anybody who listened to these instructions when we were doing the book club, during the recap, we would remember that this is a reference and a callback to a boss in Metal Gear 2. So this is Snake fights this man in Metal Gear 2, almost in the same kind of way, just in a NES version as opposed to a PS1. And so when he's saying that he's back from the dead and he wants to fight Snake again, that is what he's talking about, because Snake, and we'll find out later as after this fight and through more of the cutscene, Snake was pretty sure that he had killed him last time, and he did not expect him to be back here. But so this is a Metal Gear 2 reference. But so this fight, so this is one of the more difficult fights in the game, and I would say, yeah, it might even be, I don't know, it's up there with one of the final ones. But I still don't think it's too bad. But you are 4 phases here in this fight. So you are, the first phase is first, if you call any of the people, they tell you to not even bother using guns on him because he will deflect those bullets right back at you. So there is no point to even do that. You have to fight him with your fists. So the first phase is you just dodging his big kick attacks, and then as he lands from either the long kick or the slam down, run up, punch him, and then repeat that until he gets to about 50%. And then this is where the next phase...
It is until he gets to about 50%, or in other terms, about 4.5 minutes.
It's definitely not that long.
It can be long.
Okay,
It's definitely long.
It's not. I have the recording of me doing it on Steam Deck.
The recording of me doing it on
Okay,
Steam Deck.
only this phase does not take 4.5 minutes. But so you do the second part where he turns invisible, and you use the thermal goggles to find him.
If you have
punch him. If you have them. The other option is that it's pretty easy to see where he's at when he's invisible. It creates this like really weird wavy effect wherever he's standing.
Him, but he's standing like in between things sometimes, and you can't see him until you get close.
I had thermal goggles, and after the first one, because you saw where he would jump the first time, so you knew where to start. But after that, he could go 6 places. So like,
but if you leave the thermal goggles on, and run around, you'll always see where he's at.
You always see where he's at, but you won't always make it there in time until he starts to run back at you or jump. Because like, if you don't know all 6 places, half the time he would catch me, like he would come to me before I would get to him.
But you need him to run at you anyway, because you have to wait for him to attack so that you can dodge and then hit him.
You can attack him while he's hiding.
You can, yeah.
Because see, the thing is, if you miss him, and he goes out of his invisible state. Damage. The thing is, if you miss him, he big damage, but not only that, but he's still visible, and I'm trying to throw punches, and he's invincible at that point too, until he jumps away.
Yeah, if he's in the if he's in the middle of it. The second one, or the third phase, then is he's not invisible anymore, but he sort of fakes being on the ground, and you need to bait out his like counter punch to then hit him when he comes back up. Which is
like a one hit kill, by the way.
It's
not a one hit
for me.
Yeah, it's not a one hit kill. It's just not a one hit kill. It's still not a one hit kill. And you bait it out of him and then punch him when he misses that. And then the final phase is he starts to go crazy and starts to like put these big electric circles everywhere. You can either call during this part or just try it, but it's, obviously first time you would call. But this is where you can shoot him. So you just shoot him 3 times at this point, and then the fight's over.
You could shoot him when he was doing the electrical thing?
Yep.
Oh.
You have to. If you call Campbell, you can punch, but you will take damage when you do it.
So that's incorrect. So what happens is he has a ball around him, right? So it expands.
You have to wait,
and contracts. When it contracts to the smaller part, you can punch him without hurting yourself.
Yes, but it's just easier just to shoot him in these
I bet
parts.
it is.
Okay. Well, use the codec. I've said it every episode so far.
Yeah.
But
the
you
codec,
shoot him.
Codec, Preston, don't worry, doesn't always help, right?
Anytime I complain about something, I just assume Christian's gonna be in my head. I go, but the codec.
If you're like me, you would have gotten like you tried every phase without looking up a guide or anything. So
Alex.
like what would happen on the fourth time? So I got him down, and I was apparently standing too close when that lightning ball comes out, and it hit me, killed me. Had to start the whole fucking thing over
Alex,
again.
The whole invisible phase, like I'm having a hard time finding him because like I don't have the thermal goggles, so I'm looking for like the shadow. but some of the areas are kind of dark. So I'm going up there and trying to find it. If I don't find it, I'm like, you know what? Fuck this. I'm standing in that little spot where there's a little area that nothing's around. I'm going to sit there and walk around until that motherfucker comes at me and I can see his shadow coming. And that's what I did, which is probably why it took me that quote unquote 4 minutes. But still.
No, it takes. I had thermal goggles. It's long as shit. The whole fight is long as shit.
It's pretty
and if you
long.
die, you have to do it. Not only if you die, do you have to do the longest shit fight again, but you have to do
Christ.
the hallway scene and the cut scene. And
We'll
all
talk about that in the
that.
next boss too, yeah.
Oh,
So here's the two things. One, I think I would agree with Jake that I think when Alex gets his butt kicked, he turns into a big baby. That's one. Two,
no.
I'm not even saying this game is perfect. We're playing these games to see how they hold up. But Jesus Christ, like you guys, like I have to say every single, like you guys are like, oh, you keep saying the codec. It's because you guys keep fucking complaining about things that I tried to warn you ahead of time. Even when we first started this game, I was like, guys, I know that they try to bring this up and they try to call you all the time. Anytime you start something, anytime you're lost, anytime this is weird or you're not figuring something out, fucking press the button because it pauses the game. They give you information. That's how this game does
It's
it.
not
I'm
always
not even
perfect
saying it's a
information.
good.
I don't think that's a fair. I don't think that's a
It's
fair
not fair.
argument because, and I'll tell you why.
It is fair because
Because-
I've said it.
No. Because none of my complaints with this fight have anything to do with mechanics or codec.
I know what I'm doing.
Right, I'm saying that you lost.
Right.
I'm talking two different things. You lost and you're complaining about it. I'm saying for Preston's
Yeah,
sake.
but dude, the reason that I'm pissed about it, is not because I lose. Like if I lose and have to do it because like I'm not doing good or I'm figuring it out, that's fine, right? But that's what I said. Like I didn't use a guide. So the first time he's jumping around, and like sometimes he's jumping around and I hit him and he gets hit. Other times he's jumping around and I hit him and he just goes through my character model and like lands near me and kicks me or something. I'm like, okay, well, what determines when I hit? So whatever.
It's two
So it
different
takes me a
things.
couple-
There's the forward kick that you can't get, that he will go through because he's kicking you, and then there's the slam
Sure.
down that you can punch him out of. It is very clear.
No, it's not very clear.
It is
there are
because
other
it's
times-
one or
no,
the other.
no,
It is.
He has more than that attack. He will jump past
Not in the
you and
first
kick.
phase. He does not. He only has those two attacks.
No, I'm telling. So I was kiting him around the wall, like it was going back and forth between a wall, and there were plenty of times where he would do the roundhouse, like the spinny kick over it, and that would be fine. I would just move out of the way to hit him. And there were other times where he would do almost a cartwheelie kick, right? And sometimes I would hit him, but it's fine. Like I get through the first phase, no big deal, right? And what is a big deal? Like it took me a couple tries to do it, but I do it. I get through the first phase. Second phase, okay, like. I follow him with a thermal and then I knock him out, and then the second time like I can't find him in time because I don't know there's like 6 places for him to go, so he catches me, and yeah, like because the first phase I'm down on rations, or I only came in with like 2 rations, so it is kind of like a one-hit kill with that big attack, right? And again, it's not because I'm losing. I don't mind figuring out.
But you
It's
don't.
because
But it's not a
everything-
one-hit kill. You just didn't have that much health and you died, which is okay. And again,
Right,
I'm not
but
even
it-
saying
but
that
it-
this
no,
fight
no,
isn't
but-
difficult.
wait.
No, because
It's
I'm
not-
not saying this fight isn't difficult, but that doesn't make it bad.
No,
No one said it was bad.
I'm not saying.
He
I'm not
did.
even saying. Yeah, but I'm not. But you're misunderstanding what I'm saying is bad. I'm not saying the mechanics are bad. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it sucks how long everything fucking takes. Like the cutscene takes forever. The hallway takes forever. That's what I'm saying. So if you're playing it and you're figuring it out, like by the time I died, they would not have said in the codec, "Hey, stand 3 feet fucking back from this ball that's about to pop out of him." Right? There's no codec answer for that. So if I'm
No,
doing
you would
this
just figure
myself-
it out by playing the game.
Right. So if I'm doing this myself and I'm on like my 7th or 8th try because I'm going through each phase and I'm dying and I'm trying and I'm
But
dying.
the way
right?
that you're
By the time I
talking
get to
about
that-
it,
No, I'm just saying it sucks to die there and then have to go back like 7 fucking minutes to sit through everything again. It's
yeah,
not.
but the
I'm not
things that you're
saying
talking
all of
about
them-
sitting through are less than 45 seconds. You running through that hallway, you can skip most of that scene. The only thing you can't skip is him going through the door. Then you can skip all the dialogue between him and Hal, and then you can't. The only thing you
I
can't skip
know-
is right before he says, "Let's fight." It's
I
less
know
than
what you're
45
saying.
seconds.
This is what I said the other day, right? I get it, and it was What was frustrating is like, yes, okay, this fight's 3 minutes. This part's 3. But when you've done it 7 or 8 times, 3 minutes is 30 minutes. So it's frustrating. Like it's long as fuck. And I'm not. Again, I never said like everything about this was bad. I was fine. Like, I figured it all out. I did it all myself without a guide. I get it. And it wasn't even a codec problem. It just, by the time you're done, you're just frustrated. And
But
I'm
I
like,
don't
man.
think, but I don't think that it is long as fuck because yes, if you total up all of your attempts, it reaches 30 minutes, but that's video games.
I'm just saying it was all I said to you the other day was that I was so frustrated it took me so long. By the time I finished his dialogue of like, make me feel something, I just didn't even care. I was like, I don't even find you to be a compelling character, and like I'm just frustrated
That's
by all of
fine.
this.
I don't. Again, I'm not even saying, and this is what I was saying before. Is that I don't even.
But I don't know if I said it was bad. I didn't mean to say it was bad because I don't think I even told you the other day it was bad.
You did. You said it was horseshit.
I said fuck this guy. It's horseshit, right? But I didn't say like.
I think people could take away from that and be like, "This is I'm not having a good time and this is bad." But also, again, I'm not even saying you're allowed to not like it. We can come out of this and we all, especially from the writing perspective, not to give a spoiler for whatever happens, but there is tons of writing in this game that I think does not hold up and it is bad. Even to B thriller movie action standards, it's bad. That being said, that's the whole. But my whole point was that you cannot like it, but the things that you're talking about, you're like, it's long as shit. And I'm like, well, it's not. You're totaling up 8 attempts, but that's video games. Like, I've seen you spend an hour and a half, and I was there when you were streaming it, playing Elden Ring, what's his fucking name? The Malekith, the Black Blade. And you've spent an hour and a half on that. But I have never in my life heard you describe that fight as long as shit.
I think my frustration in some of that and where it differs for me is that I can move and dodge in Elden Ring. So like when I would get hit by something, it was apparent why I fucked up. And in this is a game that's a product of the times, right? There are moments where I get killed and it's not apparent why I fucked up. And that's the frustration. Again, the lightning bolt, like he's fainted. I got him down to this part. I don't know a lightning ball is going to pop out, right? And if it would have done a little bit of damage and I move on, like, oh, I fucked up. But like when it kills you after a bunch of attempts, you're just like, oh shit. So like it's harder with this old game to always be aware of why I fucked up, and that's where my frustration comes in. And I even told you while we were talking the other day, I said this game is very apparent as a product of its age. It just, and that's the difference, in my opinion. I don't get as frustrated when I know why I messed up.
But so the thing is I think that this game, this fight, I should say, is clear about what's damaging you and what's not. I have not been through this game where I think I don't know what the fuck just happened to me. Like,
it's not just. And again, I know we have a different experience. You've played this before. I know you're gonna say, like, "Oh, it's 12 years old." I fucking.
I was 12 the last time I played this game.
No, I get it, but you've played it before, and just you are weird about video game shit. You remember, right?
To be fair, you have a memory of a fucking lockbox.
You do. It's weird. So like, there are other things in this game that frustrate you. Again, like the rocket launcher right before this, the fucking rocket launcher scene, the room right before this, took me like 8 attempts. Again, because like sometimes I would get through the hallway and a camera would see it and be like, boom, you're blown up. I'm like, oh, I didn't know there was a camera there because like there's nothing on my map that really expands.
Well, the radar, it shows you the yellow bars but
not when you're moving that fucking fast, because if you're not zigzagging, then it takes off, right? So again, like there's just things that, because of its time, it's not always apparent why you fuck up until you do it. And if it's the 6th time or the 4th time, sometimes you're just like, fuck.
But I think that's again. But I think you're still in that moment. You're still describing video games. Like when you fuck something up, you don't know until you fuck it up, and then you go, "Oh, that's what happened." Like
specifically, this age of game, like the whole thing to like me with the tank, to where it's like, I had to get shot 3 times before the codec. You said like, "Hey, bitch, you're supposed to call me, and I was supposed to let you know about this grenade, but you didn't. So now I'm calling you." Like the games of this era, there's a lot of like trial and error when you do things because it's not nearly as obvious and less handholdy.
But even in that moment, you knew what you were getting shot by. You didn't know how you were going to solve it, but you knew a tank missile was hitting you. And even in Alex's own example, you did say, "I was flying the thing, and then a camera saw me and shot me." Well, okay, I know that a camera. So it wasn't. It wasn't it was apparent why you fucked up. You just didn't know where it was coming from. And I'm not saying.
Sure, but there are also times where like I clipped maybe like I would be going straight up a hallway and I would be in line with a pixel of a shelf, and apparently that one time a pixel of the shelf would blow my rocket up, and other times it wouldn't. Right? So like I'd have to be more centered, right? It's just it is what it is. And Christian, I get what you're saying. I totally know, but again, like that's just why it led to frustration because this whole section was a lot of trial and error, which adds up to a lot of time. In my opinion, for my opinion, for a character that was so uncompelling, and this isn't me just saying like the writing is bad or anything, because the boss fight we'll talk about later I actually kind of liked, and the Ocelot, the Revolver Ocelot fight I liked. I just think this character was a lot of effort for a little payoff.
To be fair,
by the end of it, I was like, ugh.
I like Gray Fox outside the whole hurt me daddy thing happening at the very end, but other than that, I liked the Gray Fox battle. There's bullshit that this game does. There's bullshit that this game does that it does it throughout the game that I don't like and we can talk about. But like I didn't have a problem with specifically this character. I also have a few small things. But again, trial and error. I mean, it's what it is for this game in this era.
So the thing is that again, that part I agree. Like you cannot like Gray Fox and then think like this, and also I think
a lot of work for a little payoff is
And I think that the reference to Metal Gear 2 is it's a dice roll because that'll work for people who played Metal Gear 2, but it doesn't mean anything to anybody who didn't play it.
So would they, with this collection, they have the thing that you could like go through at the beginning, right? Like the screenplays.
Well, this collection includes Metal Gear 1 and 2. We just didn't play them because I don't want to.
But you would also you could go back and have that. Would somebody playing this game then that didn't play 1 and 2 know who this character is?
No, it would be the same as you playing it right now. That's what I'm saying is that I think the choosing to put a reference boss fight to Metal Gear 2 is a dice roll because you're assuming that either people will be compelled enough to think that he's cool and be fine with it, or are going to get the reference. But most of the people who think it's cool are people who got the reference. I'm not saying not everybody. There are people who like him who didn't get the reference.
Well over my head, but I thought he looked cool. And the conversation you have with the other lady, she does kind of explain like
with Naomi.
Yeah, because they're both kind of the whole ellipses bullshit. He's like, what the fuck? And she's like, no, you what the fuck? And you find out that it is one of the person that he fought, and then he mentioned like a battle with the card, something like fucking gay. And then he was supposed to die back then, but then the whole laboratory experiments and shit like that. So it's pretty cool to do.
Which I'm gonna get to, but it's yes. But that's why I'm saying is that it's a dice roll. Is that I'm not saying not all, but most people who think he's cool are because they remember him from Metal Gear 2, and they were playing Kojima's next game, which immediately was Metal Gear Solid 1, and so it's a reference to that game, and I think it probably hits for a lot of those people. There's a lot of people
for future games, yes.
Right. There's a lot of people who didn't play those games, and so it's a dice roll on whether or not they're going to find this. And it is, which again, it is one of the more difficult fights in this game. I'm not saying that it's not, but I also think that trial and error is video games, and so I just don't understand. Like, that's the part that I'm getting at, is that I don't know. It's hard for me to hold trial and error against a video game when that is playing video games.
I mean, I was doing it for funsies because Alex was going at you, but
I know, but I'm having the conversation about this game. But either way, moving on after this fight, we beat this, and Gray Fox starts freaking out, and he starts slamming his head into the ground. He starts going crazy. It cuts to his vision where everything's red, and he just freaks the fuck out, and he leaves. And this is where we get into a conversation with, and this is what Preston was talking about, where we get into a conversation with Campbell and Naomi, where we tell Campbell, hey, Sake says, I'm positive that was Gray Fox, and I don't understand how that could be real. And Campbell is like, it isn't real because you, of all people, should know that he died on Zanzibar with you, because that's what happened to Metal Gear 2. And Naomi chirps in and goes, well, he should have died in Zanzibar. And everybody goes, well, what the fuck are you talking about? And Naomi goes on to explain that his body was recovered after the fight that he had with Snake back in Metal Gear 2, and he was pumped full of nanomachines and experimented on with early gene therapy stuff for about 4 years. And it turned him into the cybernetic soldier that we see here. And he basically has no memory anymore. He's just running around going crazy, and trying to either remember who he is, or in this particular case fight Snake, to sort of bring some meaning back to his life. But she also mentions that all of the genome soldiers that are out today are directly related to the experiments that were done on Gray Fox during his time there. Now,
and Snake also said, this is where Snake also says, like, he says something along the lines of, like, I'm pretty sure he's also not dead, like, I will face him again or something.
He says, well, she goes, he says, I'm sure I'm going to run into him again. He doesn't say he's going to fight him again. He says, I'm sure I'm going to see him again. And then Naomi goes, well, if you see him again, are you going to kill him? And Snake goes, I don't want to, but it seems like that's what he wants me to do.
Right, and it was just, that was the moment, and this trend continues in this game up to as far as we are. And my thought is, why can nobody just die? Why does nobody want to die in this thing? We fight three out of 4 bosses, and they just don't die.
Get ready for the rest of the games.
Four out of 5 bosses, and they just don't die. And I'm just like, why does nobody want to die?
Because they want to come back.
Mm-hmm. And also, the game's not over, so
that's what I say. To this point,
plenty of basketball left to be played.
Okay.
But so we pull Hal out of the closet, and the first thing, Hal Emmerich, if I was going to complain about the Gray Fox fight, I would say that I hated it or it would be a letdown for me because the only person that we end up rescuing is fucking Hal Emmerich.
A lot of dialogue here. He's not a lot.
So I don't actually the dialogue. The problem is that there is good story stuff that we get here, but every single time Hal opens his mouth about his own personal opinion about something, I just wish I could reach through the and go, shut up.
Yeah. It's like when everything's cool and then Snake
only
wants to hit
facts,
on
please.
somebody.
I don't want your opinion.
I did roll. Well, not even his opinion. Even the story about him. Like, I rolled my eyes. Whereas, like, my grandfather worked for the Manhattan Project, and my dad was born like the day the Hiroshima bomb went off. Like, pretty funny. And I told Christian this earlier. He was like, God has a sense of humor or whatever. Like, because he's now working on this project. I'm like, bro, you chose this career.
Yeah, I'm like, so your father has nothing to do with this. Yeah.
So we're gonna get there.
Like, it's so dumb.
And I'm not going to say how or why, but the spoilers for the continuation of this series. People waste no time telling Hal how much of this is his own fault. So don't worry. It's not. That elephant is addressed over and over again to make sure that Hal knows exactly whose fault some of this stuff is. But so we get him out, and the first thing we ask him is, "Hey, man, we need information about Metal Gear, and we need it right now." And he's like, well, it's just a mobile defense system or a missile defense system, and it's only strictly for defensive purposes. And Snake immediately snatches him up and holds him off the floor, and he's like, you're a damn liar. I know that it's basically a walking nuclear death mobile, so let's skip past that part. I need you to tell me how I'm supposed to be able to defeat this thing, because the terrorists have both detonation codes, and we need to end this. And Hal, to Alex's point, immediately falls to the ground. He's like, what? There's no way. It can't be possible. And then as soon as he sorry, I forgot to say before I interrupted myself about going in this. When we pull Hal out, the first thing he asked us is, are you an otaku? Mm-hmm. Because Snake goes, I always work alone. And so he's like, well, I'm always alone too. Are you an otaku? Get back in the closet.
Yeah.
Get right back in. And you're going to come back out and try again, because that's not how you greet somebody.
Get the balking stick.
1. 2. So anyway, he basically goes out and says, hey, like, he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, all I know is that I know that Metal Gear or Rex has a railgun, a Vulcan cannon, and a laser. And he was like, but those are all supposed to be for defensive things, like to shoot down missiles that would be incoming towards wherever it's based at.
He was very specific with some of this foreshadowing as well.
He
like,
does.
Railgun on the left shoulder, 8 missiles on
Yeah.
the back. And I was like, I told Christian when we were talking about that, I was just like, a word.
Yeah.
Cool.
And he says that Rex was a joint venture between his company that he was working for, Arms Tech, and then it's like Rivermore National. And as him and Snake are talking, he ends up being
I think
able
what he meant to say was Lockheed Martin and BlackRock.
Yes, exactly. And in the middle of this conversation, he puts it together that the other company was on the side. He knew that they were, but he didn't know that it was related, but that they were working on a new kind of nuclear weapon that was small enough that, in his memory, would be able to fit right in Rex's missile silos, which would make it so that Rex was able to carry around 8 nuclear warheads just floating around on its back on top of whatever. Now, I don't think anybody needs any help figuring out why that would be a bad thing and why that would be dangerous. Is being able to send 8 nukes anywhere very quickly is going to be a bad day for whoever has to get those. And so as we are figuring out this information, he figures out that this had to have been the plan all along, and this is where he starts to cry and say that 3 generations of Emmerich men have all been working on nuclear weapons. His grandfather was part of the Manhattan... Huh?
It's not true. He may have said that, but his father was just born on the day Hiroshima was dropped.
Yeah,
True.
so
That's true.
So the problem is that this is a little bit of foreshadowing from Kojima. So he says that because Hal's dad is in Peace Walker,
Okay.
and he's very much working on a nuclear weapon in there because of his grandfather's thing, or
Right.
his dad technically ties to the Manhattan Project. So that's a little foreshadowing there. We're not going to play Peace Walker, so it doesn't matter. All you know is that Hal's dad is also a piece of shit, and he except Hal is like he claims like innocent, like he's like, I didn't know that this was going to happen, even though like I was just working on defense systems. I didn't think somebody would turn my research around and make it a weapon. And it's like, yeah, that's what everybody says, but like it's the same reason NASA won't research fucking the tech to like push asteroids away, is because it could be reversed and have asteroids aimed back at the planet. So there's no reason to be able to do that. We'll leave it alone. Hal's the same way. His dad, on the other hand, was like, no, I want to kill people. Yep, I'm super into it. So the only difference between him and his dad is that his dad's a super villain. That's it. But so he goes on his little cry thing, and oh my god, I can't believe it must. And he goes, nuclear weapons must be hard coded into our DNA, whatever. So then Snake tells him to pull it together and stop crying, and like lifts him back up and sets him down on his seat, and they start working out a plan to stop Rex along with Meryl. So the plan is they're going to try to find all 3 key cards to be able to stop the launch, or just destroy Rex outright so that it can't be used to launch any missiles. And
that wasn't exactly how that scene went.
Nope,
right?
because you're because you're thinking of the scene that comes next.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So, in this moment, Snake tells him that he's going to that's fine, that's what they're going to do, but he wants Meryl to stay with Hal, and he's like, so you just fucking hide somewhere. I'm gonna have Meryl come pick you up, and then we're gonna go from there. And Snake tries to call Meryl on the codec, and Meryl answers, but then right as she's about to say, like, come down to meet you or whatever, she gets into a firefight. There's guns everywhere, and so she leaves and hangs up. So now Snake is like, oh, well, I have to go help Meryl. I think she's on the floor above me. And this is where Hal decides to let him know, well, there's a really easy way that you should be able to find Meryl. And it's because she has a great butt. And you'll be able to find her by the sway of her walk.
That they
And
show
also,
in a slow-mo
boy,
cutscene.
do they, in a slow-mo cutscene of the version of the cutscene from earlier.
Yeah.
And on top of that, he says that if you do get a chance to look into her eyes, you'll be able to tell, because she has beautiful eyes as well.
Can I say
And-
this doesn't hit very well in low polygon, right? Like it's just not
It doesn't.
like it doesn't.
We
It
can
didn't
talk a
need
little
to
bit
be
more
done.
about this later on too.
I think that this is where a game would show its age, because if you remember, like when we were like PS1, so same era.
Tomb Raider squared titties and shit. Yeah.
That and Tifa and everybody was like, "Oh my god, these are the hottest characters," even though, you know,
Well,
there's
everybody
really
gets the
nothing there.
concept art in the manual, and they go, "Yes."
Yeah, well, sure, that's the same thing with here as well.
Yeah. No, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah. But so he continues to say this. Now, what I find funny is that we need to keep in our minds that it only takes us about 10 minutes to find Meryl after this section, but just Snake deadpans this. He does not respond to Hal at all. Like, he does not give in to Hal being like, oh, she's super hot, blah, blah, blah. Snake does not engage with that part of the conversation at all, and is just like, okay, anyways, you stay here and I'm going to go do this. And Hal's like, well, don't worry about me because I got camouflage, I can turn myself invisible, and I can run back between the armory and the mess hall to bring you rations and ammo if you need it at any point. And the very last thing he tells us is that we should start using his new code name, Otacon, which will stand for Otaku Convention, which is where people like him, who like Japanimation, hang out. Then it cuts into him just giving one last little thing where he's like, hey, it's like this because I only got into science because I wanted to make cool Japanese robots like in my Japanese anime. You know, I didn't think it was ever going to turn into this, and I have to own it and take accountability so that I can get through this. And it's just one of those moments where you just want to like shut the door in his face and be like, goodbye, Otacon, because that is what we know you now. That's all anybody will call him. But you just want to be like, Jesus Christ, just get out of my way.
I also just like the whole Meryl piece where they were like, oh, you'll know her. And I would just like, I mean, you'll know her because up to this point, there's not a single female soldier in this whole effing place. Like,
yes.
Okay, you're the woman. It must be the one that I'm looking for and have already talked to up to this point.
Yeah, so we get up to this next floor, and there is two things that are happening here. So you can clear out the enemies, or if you make some noise near the girl's bathroom, Meryl will run in there, and then you can follow her in. You have two different options here. The easiest way, though, is if you just clear out enemies, Meryl will just run in there, and then you can go after her. Now, once you do this, you run in after her, she's not in there, and then you go to the last stall, you see the clothes there, and then Meryl is in her underwear and like a cami, and she's got a gun pointed to your head, and she's like, oh, this is the second time I've gotten the drop on the legendary Solid Snake, blah, blah, blah. Now, the reason I was saying earlier is that when Snake fucking, like, sandbags Otacon talking about how hot Meryl is, Snake wastes absolutely zero time immediately telling her how beautiful her eyes are and how great her butt looks and how she would never pass for a male soldier, and he can't believe that she's lasted this long because her butt looks so good. And it's just like, what are we doing? Like,
so when you're talking about like seeing her in the cameo or whatever, Christian, there's an Easter egg to where you can see her in her underwear.
The beginning of the game, yeah.
No, well, here too.
Oh, really?
If she runs,
she's in her underwear.
No, like her underwear.
underwear.
Her underwear. Like, I didn't see her in her underwear either. I
Oh,
saw her
she's
in like, normal pants.
There's pants and like a whatever the fucking top is called.
Yeah, a tank top or whatever.
Tank top, yeah.
Oh yeah, the camisole, right? You know, she was in her underwear.
Because you did it fast. Apparently, if you do it in under like X amount of seconds,
You get there before she gets her clothes on. Jesus.
That's the second time in the game you can see her in her underwear, and
Christian
it
was
is a
sprinting. Okay.
it is a Easter egg apparently.
I actually didn't know I did not know that. Yeah, I did not know that it was time based. That's very interesting.
Because I was reading the guide on that, and it said like if you make it back in I think it was like 5 seconds or something from when you get it back there. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I did not know that. But yeah, so this is where she basically is like, stop hitting on me, but then also like her and Snake keep going back and forth, but then they immediately cut to like, hey, we need to like get this plan together and we need to hurry up and, you know, get rid of Rex and all this other shit. But then he tries to tell her that she needs to like stop and go just hang out and wait for like go protect Otacon, and then he's gonna go handle everything. And she tells him no, and she like turns into the mirror, and it's like it's very clearly like her trying to be emotional about it, but she's like, I need to find out what kind of woman I am, and I need to see if I can actually do this. And she has like the old foxhound tattoo from like, obviously it's on the cover art and everything, but it's the fox with like the blade in its mouth and the whole thing. It's a very cool logo, to be fair. But she's got that, and she's like, oh, and then she makes a comment. She's like, by the way, don't worry, it's not a real tattoo. It's just painted on. And it's like,
What the fuck?
okay, I wouldn't have been worried about it if it was, but that's fine, I suppose.
Well,
Because women in this world aren't allowed to have tattoos.
I know, but
to be
also
fair,
you
Japan
should-
in general, that they don't.
Yeah,
kind of frown upon it.
yeah, that's fair. It's probably a culture. But then also, it's
Yeah.
like, you should be lucky that it's painted on because Foxhound is no longer like Snake and Campbell and other cool people. It's full on crazy wacko terrorists. So you should probably just rinse it off because I don't think you want to be a part of Foxhound anymore. But as we get through this conversation with her and her relationship with Snake, she gives us the one key that she had for Metal Gear Rex, but then lets us know. Snake immediately is like, well, where are the other two? And she's like, I didn't even know there were other two. What are you talking about? There's two more. And he was like, oh my god. And so then they figure out, well, we're going to have to find the other two keys that are probably going to be closer to the hangar that Rex is being kept. And now it is time to move forward. Meryl is now in the outfit that you two saw her in, which is her full little combat outfit. And we run forward into our next boss fight, which is the Psycho Mantis fight.
Mm-hmm.
So this fight is, I would say, probably one of the more like, probably the extremely well-known fight, like that has transcended video games where people have heard about Psycho Mantis. It's, very, very big. So Psycho Mantis does a few things here that is interesting to this fight that I think, especially back in the day, like I can say is something when I was playing through it the first time, totally baited me. I got completely got by this fight. So there's a couple things that it does. One, he tells you that he's going to read your mind, and when he does that, he starts telling you about how you've played the game so far. So, whether you've killed a lot of people or not, whether you've been caught a lot or not.
He said, I saved a lot, and I was very diligent.
He also tells you whether or not you've saved and whether or not how prudent you are. He does say that. Then he goes, okay, you still don't believe me. That's all right. And then he starts reading your save data on your memory card. Now, this is why I said that in the beginning, you can go ahead and edit your save data and put in games that you recognize. So I got told that I love Japanese games and that I love Konami games because I have Suikoden and Castlevania and like Radia, like some other stuff. And so, but back in the day, he was telling me like what level my character was in Final Fantasy, and he was talking about how far I had made it in Spyro and Crash, and like all sorts of different things that I was like, dude, what the fuck is happening? It was very shocking to me that they were able to pull that off. Then one of the more like gimmicky things that he does, but I think it's funny, is because this game would say on the front of the case, would say best with your DualShock controller. This is when Vibration first came out for the PlayStation 1, and that's when he tells you to set the controller on the ground, and he will make it move with his mind. And it's because he would vibrate it, and then it would move, and you're like, oh, he's doing it. He did what he said he's going to do. So there's that piece. And then there is the next parts during the fight. So he was saying, I'm going to be able to read your mind, and you won't be able to... I'll be able to see your every move.
Yep.
Now, on the Master Collection, so in the old days, you would have to literally unplug your controller if you call during the codec fights, they will tell you to try putting it into the player 2 slot. So in this, in the old days, you would literally yank your controller out and put it in the player 2 slot, and then Psycho Mantis would be like, "Oh my god, I can't read your mind anymore," and then you would be able to fight him like normal. The Master Collection adds 2 ways to be able to do this. So there is the in-game menu, which is what I had said. Now, in fairness, we had not talked about it in a very long time, but this is where I was saying that you could go to view the manual. And so if you hold both bumpers, it brings up the stance menu, and that's where you can view the online manual or the game case to be able to see the photo to get Meryl's thing. That was the last time it got brought up, though. But this is where you can also say, now you'll see down at the bottom it says change controller input, and you can change to 1 or 2, and then you press 2 and it does it. The other thing the Master Collection does, though, is if you die enough, it will just give it to you. You'll tell you that you can go and beat up the statues alongside the wall, and then it will stop Psycho Mantis from being able to read your inputs, and then you can go and do it.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, you have to. It's like you have to die like 6 times, I think.
I beat it. I beat it on my second try, but I did the change the controller input.
Yeah, you use the
So-
stance menu.
I pull up the
Yeah.
codec. It tells me about the masks. I try to shoot the mask on the statues, but they don't let me destroy it right away. And then I'm doing my guide, and it's like, oh, you need to switch controller ports. I'm like, well, I can't fucking do that. So I'm like, okay, well, it says, well, if you're on PC and you're playing with the gamepad, you got to switch to keyboard. And I'm like, well, fuck. So I get up from my fucking living room, come into my office. I'm like, okay, let's try to figure out the controls on fucking keyboard, because I don't know how to get to the menu yet. So I'm like sitting there, I'm like, I figured out how to move. I figured out how to, take out my gun and put away my gun, but I couldn't figure out how to fucking fire. I'm like, God fucking damn it. And then finally I figured out, like, okay, I remember there's a way to get to the fucking menu. There's gotta be a way to get to menu on this fucking collection. So I start pressing buttons and figure it out. And like, okay, let's go to controller settings. And like, sure as shit, it's like switch input. I'm like, cool, fucking great. So I switched the fucking controller input.
So Preston, can I say one thing? This isn't against you, kind of against Christian. I told Christian about this. Like, I was following a guy, like, I saw where I was gonna have to do the keyboard thing, like you, and Christian's like, oh, it's like, I don't think you have to on this. He's like, I'm pretty sure they fixed it in the collection. I was like, oh, did they? We were like playing Monster Hunter or something. He's like, yeah, they fixed it. He's like, oh yeah, you just go into the menu, and like 20 minutes later, he tells me, he's like, yeah, you can go into the menu and change it. Like, oh, cool, I'll do that. And he goes, you know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, let me throw that in chat just so Preston knows to not forget to go to the menu.
To post it.
And he did forget to post it. He did forget to post it. So
I
did
figured it
forget
out.
to post it.
I got there.
Yeah.
But I died a couple
Yeah.
times, and this is 100% one of those battles to where it's, you can only save at a certain point. And so like I save here, I get the cutscene twice. I'm like, okay, we're not doing that. So I get inside the office, I save there, but it still pops you out. No matter where your save point is, it still takes you to a checkpoint, if you will.
Yeah.
So you have to go in there, you have to run around. She doesn't she's obviously getting like manipulated the mind. But like you have to get her, like you get inside the office, you have to walk around it a little bit to get that done and then do it. Now you didn't mention like, so he's manipulating her mind. I mean, are you going to get to that
I'm
part?
not. So
Okay.
I'm not. No, I'm not to that.
You got
part
the
yet.
controller
So-
part, so I figured we got there already.
Yeah. I was just getting over. I was just talking about all the things he does during this boss
Sure.
fight that are like things. The last thing that he does now. This is a product. I think this is still a product of its time, and unfortunately, it just won't hit the same for people who aren't our age. But for the people who don't know, back in the day, we would have to change the input of our television to be able to play video games.
So that's
Sometimes
what
that was
bullshit
video
that was coming
1.
up. Okay.
Sometimes that's video 2, sometimes it's video 3. Now, there would be times where if your game stopped working, like if the console would break, it would go to a black screen and then it would say video 1, 2, or 3 in the top right corner. The gimmick here is that Psycho Mantis talks about being able to turn off your vision, and then he cuts the screen off. And instead of saying video 1, 2, or 3, it says Hideo 1, 2, or 3. Now, if you're a child and you're in a panic because your screen just went black, Hideo looks an awful lot like video. And you're like, God damn it, I'm about to lose this fight because I can't see anything. And then he brings it back and he's like, ha ha ha. And it's a very good gotcha moment. That unfortunately does not work anymore, and I would wish they didn't fix it in Twin Snakes, and they didn't, well, because in Twin Snakes technically it was still a
if you're
thing.
playing console, we still have input, so
Yeah, but and in this, like,
you don't have the black screen, like the green.
no, it's even, yeah, that's what I was saying. Even then, like, but during the GameCube era, it was still there, so it still worked in Twin Snakes. But in this, it's like that's gone. Like that does no longer happen.
I was wondering.
Christian, can I
And so-
say, in my opinion, I don't think any of this hits today, and it sucks. It's kind of like a twist at the end of the Saw movie, and somebody spoils it for you before you walk into it, right? So you know what's going to happen at the end of Saw. so many games today, not so many games today have done the whole like meta aspect that can catch you off guard, or like Doki Doki Literature Club and stuff. Like there's games that do a lot of this stuff. So unfortunately for people playing this today that maybe didn't live through the old day like memory cards and other stuff, I don't think any of this hits, and it's not done any favors by the voiceover, which just isn't great.
So
But I think back then
I think this could still work. It would just need some tweaks, and this is what I was going to get at. Is that
Okay.
I wish with the Master Collection they would have changed something, because for new players, I think if it changed it, especially since it's on Steam and all this data is readily available on Steam, if they would have allowed this game to read your Steam save files and started talking about your Steam library or different things, I still think it would have worked for new players who did not know what was about to happen. They would be like, "What the hell is going on?"
You could put like an error message on the screen, like your game
Right.
crash itself,
Yep.
and then that would have been a good way to be like, "What the fuck just happened?"
like the Steam homepage or something.
And the
random.
reason that I say this is because, and I'm gonna spoil, it'll be 30 seconds about Pony Island, but the reason that I say this could still work is because I had a moment in Pony Island where there's a part where it looks like, and they copied it exactly, where it looks like somebody from your Steam's friends list is messaging you, because you have to type an input to something, like you type an answer to a question, and it's supposed to be like a fuck you kind of question, so you type it, and then it pops up. It has the same echo sound and everything as a Steam notification, and it pops up that person's photo, and then it goes, "Hey, why did you just send this to me?" And it happened to me when I was playing that game, and I was like, holy shit. And Preston, it's a mutual friend of ours, it was Martin, but Martin was like, "Yo, why did you just send this to me?" And I was like, what just happened? And I like quickly hit shift tab and like looked, and then I was like, oh, this game just got me. Like I actually thought this is what just happened.
Eternal
and so I think
shit. Yeah.
Right. And to your point, Alex, now, like, I didn't know about that going in because I made sure that I did not know anything about that game when I was going in. So that still worked. Same thing with Doki Doki Literature Club. I think the twist in that game works up until you know about it, and then once you know about it, it doesn't work. So, which is fine, but that's why I think with some tweaks, this Master Collection could have brought Psycho Mantis to a new generation of players.
That would have been cool. Yeah.
But
it's Konami.
In the way that it is now, it just comes off as people who are our age that know what it's trying to do go like, back then that would have been clever. Like, but that's all that happens now, unfortunately. But if they would have made some tweaks, I think, to the Master Collection, it totally could have at least gotten a little bit of the pop off that it got back in the day. Because we are all at the point where we could imagine ourselves being in front of a TV and then the screen goes black and then it says video in the corner and we go, what the fuck just happened? Right? But there's plenty of people, especially on PC, that's not a thing. So when it happens here, you're just like, oh, what's going on? Like, why is this doing this? Right?
Yeah, that's a good point. Like, it could have worked. It just needs to change. So yeah,
they should have just tweaked it. I don't know why they didn't.
Because
especially
there's extra effort.
I know, but you already. The thing is that there is a lot of effort put into this collection
to make it work. Otherwise you can't.
But like even all the extra stuff, like there's a lot of art and there's a lot of different things, and like all sorts of stories and like different stuff that they break. Like there's a lot of effort. Like there's even a menu in this game that you can change the background borders on the side of the game to be like different concept art that you want it to be or whatever. Like they did put effort into this collection. It's just like, man, if you'd have just made just a few extra tweaks, I think the Psycho Mantis fight could have still had a little bit of a pop off today, but it just in this particular instance it doesn't. But once you do those things, the fight, like, so those are all those things, but so the actual fight is once you switch to player 2, you're able to start this fight in earnest. And the first, you start fighting him, but then the first thing that happens is that he takes over Meryl's body, and he says, "I know your weakness, Snake," and it's Meryl. And then you go, and she controls, and she's aiming at you. Now, she has a health bar, and your easiest thing to do is obviously just to knock her out. You can do that 2 different ways. You can either run up and flip her over and just let her hit the ground, and you do that about 3 or 4 times, and then she knocks out, and that doesn't do any damage to her health. And it just knocks her out. Your other option is you can just walk up and start throwing hands. You can just.
I did the 1-2 Chris Brown. That's what I did.
Dude, it's an option. It is an option. You can beat the brakes off her, and as long as she doesn't die and she stays on the ground knocked out, then you can totally do that option. Um, and that there's three phases to this fight, and they all coincide about the different times that Meryl is going to get taken over. So you get his health down about a third, and he picks her back up, and it's largely the same thing, and you just hit her again. The third time he picks her up, and she puts the gun to her head, and he's like, "I'm gonna have her blow her brains out," and you have to knock her out again so that he can stop it, and then you can finish the fight and kill him there. And this, to Alex's point, is the first person that we actually kill. Psycho Mantis dies.
Can I say it's hard to tell how Kojima feels about Meryl up to the place where we stop? Because on one hand, it's, oh, she has such a nice butt, blah, blah, blah. And on the other hand, it's, she goes through the ringer, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's very hard to understand, like, how he feels about this character.
I think that this game, you can just say it's hard to understand how Kojima feels, period. Like,
yeah.
The only thing we know for sure across all of this writing is that he believes war is bad and the war economy is corrupt. And you know what?
Ain't wrong.
Fair enough. But everything else is like a roller coaster of just like, sometimes it's bad, other times it's cool. Sometimes this is anime as fuck, and other times it's not. I don't know. But we have this fight with Psycho Mantis. It ends. We rescue Meryl, and in Alex's case, Meryl walks up behind him, not angry that she just got the paws put on her. But you have this conversation with Psycho Mantis, and he basically is like, "Man, you are just like your brother." And then he's like, "No, as a matter of fact, you're worse. You are just like, you don't give a fuck. Like, you are crazy." And Snake is like, "I don't know what the hell you're talking about." And then Psycho Mantis goes on to basically explain him and, his background about how he killed his dad when he was younger. He set his whole village on fire. You would see this in Metal Gear Solid 5 because it's a very long ago prequel, and the very tail end has a slideshow of Psycho Mantis's village, and him doing that. But Psycho Mantis goes up and he just basically, "Hey man, I can't really tell you much about our leader's goals because I really didn't give a fuck. I was here because I just wanted to kill a bunch of people. That's it. I didn't care about any of this. I just wanted to kill people. And since you've beaten me and killed me, I'll help you go further." And so he opens up a secret passage behind a bookcase, tells us to put his mask back on so that he can be by himself and not have any of the thoughts creep in. And we grant him his little dying wish, and then we piece the fuck out.
We were in that part, and he's like, "Oh, let me feel human. Like, let me die with dignity. Put my mask on." And I'm thinking to myself, like, "Nah, Billy Corgan, I'm sorry. Like, I'm not risking you coming back. Like, I just you got to die."
With me, like, I was just like Snake was like, "Oh, we're both soldiers, so I respect it," and blah 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 blah. And it's like, yeah, but old boy actually just admitted to being a mass murderer, and I know the only difference between a murderer and a hero is who wins, but like, he was just like, "Yeah, but I just like killing people." Like, Snake, at least in this particular instance, is like, "I don't like killing people, but it gets easier over time, and it's just what I do, and I'm really good at it." But like, Psycho Mantis is just like, "Oh no, I love it. It's the best. Killing people is the coolest."
And it's not even just like normal ways. It's like really
horrific.
psycho, like lighting people on fire, or like burning them from the inside and stuff.
Yeah.
Nah, man.
But he does leave us a little parting thing where he says that he read Meryl's mind, and we have Snake has a large place in her heart.
Sure.
So just know, and Snake's like, "A large place?" And he's like, "A large place in her heart," and then that's it. Which is again like, okay, I guess thanks for the information. And it also Meryl does not address that, and neither does Snake. They just let that lie, and then they walk right through the door. And this is where we enter into the caves area, where as soon as we walk out into the open area here, we hear some dogs howling and everything. But I guess between this area and the next fight, there will be a little bit. So how did we? I know we kind of touched on it already, but Psycho Mantis fight. How's everybody feeling?
It was fine. I mean, I was a little frustrated at first, but once you figure out the whole port bullshit thing, it's super fucking simple. You just shoot him from afar, and he goes down pretty quickly. The only time I had issues was with, and this is again of like the time of this game, and when it was made, it's just sometimes it can be hard to grab Meryl. Like I will be my model is like somehow overlapping with her still, but somehow it doesn't grab her. So therefore, she gets a shot off. Easy mode. It done a huge amount of health, but it's still like a good like fourth of my health. But that's probably the only frustrating part of it, outside of not knowing what the fuck I was doing. Once I figured it out, it was pretty straightforward.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to punch Meryl in the face. So, you don't miss that one. The Psycho Mantis fight, yeah, I think was fine. Like we talked about, I mean, I kind of knew the gimmick going in because over years it's been spoiled and so on. Like I said, I didn't think the twist hit. I saw because today, but I could definitely see where if I was a kid in front of the TV, I would be like, "Holy shit, this is incredible!"
Yeah.
And your ideas were good too. I think that would have made it work. There's still just something like through the whole game, the voice acting cracks me up. Like it's just not great, right? When he's just like, "Oh, let me do one more if you do not believe me. Put your controller on the ground and I will move it with my mind." Like, all right, Zoltar, I get it.
Yeah,
Like,
I do think that he's supposed to sound like, I think that Psycho Mantis is trying, like, or I should say Kojima is trying to have him be that kind of like a ho 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 kind of thing, but yes, yeah.
But yeah, that one I thought that was I thought it was fine so far, and up to this point, once I got beyond my frustration with that last fight, like again, I don't know if I said this. I don't know if I don't remember the other parts, but like as a whole, I'm actually still enjoying my experience as a collective game, right? Like I still am excited about the story, where it's been and where it's going. But I think there's a definite imbalance for the characters Kojima likes, or like things are cooler. I'll just say that. So yeah.
All right, so we are going to get into the final part of this playthrough. So this part is actually pretty quick. So we've got this. We get onto the canyons. We hear a bunch of dogs howling, and she's like, "Oh my!" Meryl makes a kind of like, "Oh my god, there's wolves out here." And then Snake's like, "Actually, it's half wolf, half husky." She's like, "Well, how can you tell that?" And he's like, "I'm a dog expert. I'm a dog musher." And you're like, okay." That's, I guess, a fun fact.
It was a weird line. It was very weird.
Like, that's
I'm
fine.
a musher. Like, okay.
So she runs ahead and she's like, "All right, well, meet me at the other end of these caves then." So you can do some exploring, run out. But as soon as you get out into the main area to try to follow her, these dogs are not happy that you're here. They're very pissed and they chase you down. And I will say that only because we have the 1-2 Chris Brown over here, there is no downside for killing these dogs other than you feeling bad about it. So whether or not you feel bad about it is totally up to you. But as you make your way through, you can either punch them to knock them out, you can either just run straight up from them, or you can shoot them and kill them if that's what you feel like you need to do.
You can also, I just punch them, but
yeah, I said
the guy that I'm following says you should use stun grenades because it'll stun everybody in the area you can run through.
Yeah, you can use chaff grenades and it blows it. Yeah,
I just ran.
Yeah, I also just ran. I just didn't hit him. But you can do whatever you want. Once you get to the edge, though, there's an Easter egg that I knew about. I know you guys are looking at guys, so I don't know if it told you to do this or not.
The guy told me to do this. Yep.
Yeah, I didn't do that.
So so there's an Easter egg here. So when you get to the edge, Meryl's like, "So what the fuck, idiot? I thought the dogs were into you." And then they're all loving her and being all excited. And you can punch Meryl right when she says that in this situation, and she will stick the dogs on you. However, if you hurry up and get in a cardboard box right after you do it, she goes, "What the hell are you doing?" But then the dogs come and pee on that box. And when they do that, it makes it so that if you wear that same box when you're back out here for the next part of this, they don't attack you. They're very happy that you're there because you smell like them. So this gets into the next area. So as soon as we cross the door, we get to the Sniper Wolf fight, which is the boss fight that we are ending here. So, first thing that happens as soon as we get in is that there's mines all over the front of this. And Meryl's like, I actually know where all these mines are because when Psycho Mantis dived into my mind, I got to see where all the mines were planted. She's like, so follow my footsteps. So she starts walking, and all of her footsteps are in the snow here. And then Snake is meant to follow along with her footsteps before they start to disappear as he starts to run around. You make it to the end of these, and she's like, pretty sweet, huh? And as soon as she does that, it cuts to him going, oh, Meryl, like, don't, because there's a red laser dot right on her chest. And Sniper proceeds to shoot her in both her legs and both her arms. And Meryl just lays on the ground and is basically like, oh, Snake, go on without me. Don't forget me. Please start believing in people, the good in people, blah, 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 blah. And Campbell calls you and is like, hey, asshole, please save my niece. Please do whatever you gotta do to save my niece. Please don't let her die in the middle of the snow like this for no reason. And so Snake says that he's gonna save her, but not before Naomi chirps in and is basically like, but why? Like, you could just use her as a distraction and kill Sniper Wolf and move on. And he's like, I don't need an excuse to save somebody. And she's like, yeah, but you're a soldier. Like, get the fucking job done. And he's like, well, fuck you. I'll be able to save her and beat Sniper Wolf. And it's really weird how indignant Naomi is about this, but she's like, okay, I guess if that's what you're gonna do,
She's
then
been
good
jealous
luck.
this entire time.
Well, I don't even know if it's a jealousy thing. Maybe that's what they're trying to go for here.
I read it as jealousy.
It feels like what Naomi is trying to do is, so after her injecting us with nanomachines, I personally think that Naomi is trying to use us as a science experiment and is mad when we're not acting the way that she wants us to act. That's how I'm taking it. But I don't know. It's been a long time since I played this game. But we hang up with her, we call Otacon, and Otacon tells us that he remembers there being a PSG-1, a sniper rifle, back in the armory, and Snake even complains about how far back that is and why he would have to go back that far, and Otacon's like, well, I can't get to it, so...
yeah, a guy with invisibility can't get to it.
But he can't get there because of clearance, because he gave us his key card. I'm just telling you. That's why he can't get in the door. And so we run all the way back.
Could have done a lot more with that invisibility. Just saying, he could have given us that power, and with the power of the key card and the invisibility, we'd pretty much be unstoppable.
Yeah. So we run all the way back to the armory, and to be honest, this isn't super eventful. There's a couple areas where there's enemies, like enemies are back. There's some areas where there's no enemies now. And the only main thing that I think is like a hugely different is where Vulcan Raven was with the tank. There's just a fuck ton of mines now and some gun turrets. But other than that, it's really relatively unchanged. But we make our way back to the armory. We get the sniper rifle. We come back. And when we get back, Meryl's body is gone. But it's time to start the fight. Now, this is one of the other fights that I was telling you guys about that, just like the Revolver Ocelot fight, is made completely irrelevant with the Twin Snakes remake, because obviously the whole point of this part is that you go into, like, as soon as you aim, like, equip the weapon and aim down it, Snake lays down on the ground, he goes into first person mode, and then you're watching her, Sniper Wolf, jump from cover to cover and trying to get the drop on her and shoot her. This in Twin Snakes, because it's just a third-person shooter, you just aim and shoot. Like, you just run up and you just bang, 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 and then you move on. It is like, it goes from what I think is probably like a 4 to 5 minute fight to like sub 30 seconds in Twin Snakes. Like, you literally just run up, equip the sniper rifle, shoot her, and move on. I think there's even speed runs of this game that you can do it. Maybe you might be able to do it even without the sniper rifle. Sure. But yes, or of Twin Snakes, I should say, where you can do it without the sniper rifle. But that is the part here. The other thing that happens, the other like sort of mechanic in this fight, is that there's been a medicine that we've been picking up along the way called diazepam, or you might have missed it. Also,
I think Preston has not picked it up.
Yeah.
Fun fight.
It makes this fight easier, but it is not by any means. It doesn't stop you from completing it.
No.
But if you take the diazepam, which is like an old '90s military movie reference thing, but it's what snipers used to take to calm themselves down, which is what Snake does here. So there's no weapon sway, and you can just be locked in the whole time and just hit her as soon as she goes from cover to cover. Otherwise, there's some weapon sway that happens in between shots that you have to try to line up as you go by her.
Mm-hmm.
I had a little frustration with this fight too. I died, I think, 2 or 3 times. Maybe killed her. I either killed her on my second or killed her on my third. But the frustration I had is when she lined up on the wall, like on the left-hand side of the wall, I did not have to be directly on her, and I would shoot, and it would just like hit her, and be like, "Oh, weird! I thought I missed because like I wasn't on her, right?" But then she would like run to the right-hand side and crouch down, where her head would be right below the thing, and I would be the same maybe distance off, and be like, "No, that one didn't hit." I'm just like,
Oh, weird.
"Okay, right?" And like, but she would hit me, and then when she hits you, if she hits you once or twice, like it's done because like it throws you so far off to one side.
It's easier. It's easier to unequip the gun
Yes.
and then re-equip it and
Yeah.
line up to get right back in it, as opposed to the slowly trying to like bring the reticle back. But what we just described is the fight. So you shoot her, and when you take her down and she falls over, you run about halfway down. Now, this didn't happen for Alex. I don't know if it was the same for Preston or not. So if you run about halfway down, Mei Ling is supposed to call you. She asks you to save before you keep going, and you save and then stop, and that's where we stopped. So I know, Alex, it did not trigger for you, and you got the cutscene that leads into the next section.
Didn't trigger for me, but I did. I did hit the codex button, and then once you hit the codex button, she automatically pops up first.
Yeah,
So I mean, I don't know if it's supposed to automatically pop up, but it didn't automatically pop for me.
that's fine.
I didn't mean for it to try to do it that way, but like I pressed a button to pause or whatever, and I hit the codec button, and it just happened to do it.
Okay, well, that's perfect. So Alex is he's the only one who went too far. It's not a big deal. It's just a cutscene and then an event, but
kinda
we'll
what he
get there the
does.
next time.
He's like, it gets like 10 extra minutes off of every part.
I didn't mean to.
But that is, well, to be fair, I don't know why it wasn't triggering. I don't know.
That's weird.
It did but it could be a who the fuck knows.
Yeah.
But that is that. So before we get into our final thoughts, I just want to let everybody. So where we're going to stop is our friend Vulcan Raven is going to be back, and we will have a fight with him in an area called the Blast Furnace. And when that fight ends, that is where we're stopping, and that'll be right. We'll stop there, and then the next part will be us just straight up finishing the game. So that's where we're stopping. So as soon as you defeat Vulcan Raven, just save, be done, and we'll pick up from there. So
Okay.
I don't know. I'm very torn right now on my feelings of this game. With a bunch of things. Like I'm a little torn on the whiplash of the writing, right? Like in the characters and how Kojima feels. So I'll have to wait to put those thoughts together. But I'm also just very torn on the gameplay. I think I want to be more excited about the gameplay, and I think it's because I see, if I was playing this on the PS1 back in the day, to what you said before we started this, Christian, like you can absolutely tell they were pushing this console to its complete limits.
for sure.
I think I would be more forgiving back then for that reason, and because that's how games were. Today, because we're 20-something years later, more, there's been so many quality of life things that it's hard sometimes to go back and be like, this, like this should be easier, right? But there are absolutely times in this game where I can see where you were actually pushing this
and
tech.
to be fair, because I think I said this right before we started, which was, I think overall we would have a better time if we were playing the Twin Snakes remake, because it's much more modern in the way that it does it. But I don't think that's a fair assessment of Metal Gear Solid 1.
So I don't know. So like yes. So to that point, because we haven't finished it yet, I don't know where to put my overall thoughts. Again, I'm still in the aspect of like I'm enjoying my time with it. I'm excited to see where we're gonna go with the story because there's still like I feel like Psycho Mantis is just well in what I saw in the next cutscene. I feel like we're just starting to really get like turn up the Kojima-ness because like Vulcan Raven, meh. Like Revolver also was there a little bit, right? Sniper Wolf to me really wasn't. So like I think we're starting to see it and I'm excited to see where we go with it. But my overall thoughts I think I need to collect a little bit more because I'm just so torn in every aspect with everything right now.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
So I'm not hating it. The stealth is not as much as I thought there would be. It's more or less a just make sure no one's in front of you when you're walking and you'll be fine. Um, some of the things with like trying to grab Meryl to knock her out. Sometimes I grab someone and hit and I get shot. That's kind of frustrating. Um, as far as the codex stuff to like figure out what to do, like I'm fine with that because like obviously we're playing it for the book club, so I want to get it done as quickly as possible. But if I was a kid and this is the game I had for half the year, like I could see that would be an okay thing for me. Um, but yeah, overall I'm enjoying it. I would say I like the parts of the story, but then Kojima comes in there with the cheese, the corny, and the cringe, and it throws me fucking off every time.
So the cringe is the part that I still can't get past. Like there's like the action movie cheese stuff that I feel like
That's
there's
fine. You
moments
can
in
kind
this
of let that go. Yeah.
where I'm like, well, not even just let it go, but I'm like, this is clearly what you're going for. So that's like, I'm like, there's parts of this game that definitely feel like I'm shooting for a Mission Impossible
Sure.
style thing, and
A
it definitely
action movie
feels like a
from
Mission
that
Impossible thing,
era. Yeah.
right? Like, there's
But
definitely
the
times like that.
but the Meryl's
But the
butt stuff
dude, the
and
cringe stuff is just like, oh my
like even with Meryl,
god,
so like we talked about like the polygons and like how it's like not very flattering for some characters, but that's at the time. Like on her like shirt, like you were starting her underwear, but like we saw her with the tank top or whatever. They had
camisole, yeah.
shadows right where her nipples are supposed to be, like
Yep.
predominantly showing where her nipples are. I'm like, you did not need to go that far. I understand you want to make it like to get some wrinkles in the clothing to show that she has breasts, but you didn't need like to have like nipples
Yeah.
there. Like it's them doing their thing of being weird about it.
It's amazing how he's able to do all three of those things in the same scenes too. Like
Mm-hmm.
the cheesy, the corny, the cringe. Like the Emmerich scene. And
Ugh.
the end of the fight with Grey Wolf into the Emmerich dialogue
Hurt
has
me.
all of those
Mm-hmm.
things in like a span of like 20 seconds, and it is like the whiplash of emotion between
It's
like I see what
it's
you're
like
going for, it's a little campy, and like, ooh, you canceled, right?
yeah,
Like it's a
yeah.
lot like real
Which is
quick.
why I've said, and this is why I said at the beginning of this, and I'm sure I'll bring it up all the way up until Rising, which I do think is a perfect game. But um, before, like all the way up until this, Kojima has this way of just straddling this line between like, man, that's actually interesting and really cool and like a clever way to do something, and then just like complete hack shit that you're like, no one else would be able to get away with this. Like, it's crazy, but I like with like that the dialogue that you're talking about with Otacon there is like there's moments when he's talking about how Metal Gear Rex was created, the different things, and like two companies and doing this. Like, oh, this is very interesting. And then he just comes up with like a crazy right hook that you never see coming, where he's like, anyway, Meryl's butt and eyes though, and you're like, what the fuck, dude? Like, what are we like? Yeah, what are we talking about? Like,
Who
it's
fucking
it's
knows?
all over the place.
Yeah. So it's it's interesting. I'm interested
Yeah,
to see
I'm,
where we
I'm,
go
I'm
with it.
curious about where it goes for sure.
I'm also curious to see like there are things I'm genuinely impressed by in this game. The amount of items is one of those things I'm genuinely impressed by. Like I have a bunch of boxes, thermal, night vision goggles,
Yep.
cigarettes. You can
I
like you
did
have all
miss
these.
I did miss
And
where we said we could pick up the night vision goggles. It's on the first floor of that nuke building, but yeah.
you have like I've yet to use them. I just have them. But like you have all that stuff, and then like on the right hand side, the right hand, you have like four different guns and a sniper and three different. You have the chaff grenades and the stun grenades and the normal grenades. Like the amount of items is actually genuinely impressive for a game back then. Again, so I see what we're going for. I'm interested to see how this continues to build and either work or not work in Metal Gear 2, 3, 4, but like whatever we're gonna go
Yeah.
through, right?
I also want to say, as a final thought for mine, is that I think it's very brave that Monster Hunter decided to take the rotary wheel item thing from this game and keep it alive.
Sure.
Oh yeah, the side, like, yeah, not the quick. You're right.
Yeah,
You're right. 100%.
It's very brave. Very
equally
brave.
cumbersome. Yeah.
Yes, very brave to choose that from that game to bring it forward.
Hilarious. Cool. So that is part 3 of Metal Gear Solid. Don't forget to check in with us next week. We'll have our normal prologue where we'll all be here talking about what we had played and other stuff. But then, of course, we have part 4 of this coming next week. So only 2 more parts of Metal Gear Solid. And we're on to Preston? Me?
You are always after Christian.
Okay. Well, we've already said what we're going to play. If you don't remember, I'll remind you in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But we had already talked about it. So with that, everybody, thanks for hanging out with us. We will catch you next time. Preston, you know what to do.
Thank you for listening to another episode of The Testing Room. To catch up on past episodes or to check out the newest ones when they drop, follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your favorite podcast. If watching is more your thing, check us out on YouTube, youtube.com/@thetestingroom, or watch us live on twitch.tv/testingroomlive. To leave comments or ask questions, you can follow us on Instagram @testingroompod, leave a comment on YouTube, or send them in to testingroompod@gmail.com. See you next time.